Hi, home bakers! Today I'm in the kitchen making easy homemade artisan baguettes.
These French baguettes are beginner-friendly, require no special tools, and bake up with a gorgeous crust and tender crumb. It's going to leave your kitchen smelling like a French bakery in no time.
Baguettes are made and enjoyed worldwide, but I think most people would agree this bread is quintessentially French.
So let's get into the kitchen. This is how I make easy, classic baguettes.
To start this recipe, in the bowl of a stand mixer or in a large bowl if you're making the recipe by hand, mix 1½ cups of warm water and 2¼ teaspoons or 1 packet of dry active yeast. When the yeast is soft, add in 4 cups of flour. Mix with the dough hook attachment or with your hands. I'm going to knead this for about 4 minutes or 6 minutes if you're kneading the dough by hand. The dough should be smooth, elastic, and clean the sides of the bowl. Then I'm going to cover the bowl and allow it to rest for 20 minutes. This step is called an autolyse. Now that my dough has rested, I'm going to sprinkle on top 1½ teaspoons of salt. Knead this into the dough for another 3 minutes. The dough should now be smooth and glossy. Cover and let it rise in a warm place for 1 hour or until doubled in bulk. Now that my dough has nicely puffed up, I'm going to tip it out onto a lightly floured surface. You can split the dough in 3 for small baguettes or 2 for long. I'm going to form each section of the dough into a rectangle and then fold it in thirds, kind of like a letter going into an envelope. Cover and let it rest another 15 minutes. Now on my lightly floured surface, I'm going to gently press and roll each portion of the dough into a long log about 12 inches long. Now there's a few extra things that bakers use to make beautiful baguettes. The first is a couche. This is a soft cloth that's used to separate the bread loaves while they're rising. It keeps them rising up instead of out, which will give you that nice cylinder shape instead of a wide flat baguette. To bake the bread, baguette pans are often used by home bakers. These are pans that are perforated for airflow and are in that cylindrical shape that you need for the baguette. If you don't have either of these, you can absolutely still make baguettes at home. For this recipe today, I'm making my baguettes without a couche and without a baguette pan. I'm going to cut a piece of parchment paper a little bit longer than my baguettes, then fold it in thirds lengthwise to give it structure. I'm going to dust this lightly with flour and then place the dough right in the center. Tie a piece of twine on each end to form the parchment paper into a half cylinder so the dough will hold its shape as it rises. Now I'm going to set it aside and let it rise until it's doubled, which takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the temperature of your kitchen. Meanwhile, I'm going to preheat the oven to 450 degrees Fahrenheit or 230 degrees Celsius. I'm using the fan on or convection mode. Cut slashes in the top of the loaves with a sharp blade just before going into the preheated oven. You can pour about a cup of ice cubes into the bottom of the oven to create steam, and then shut the door. I'm going to bake the loaves for 8 minutes. If you use the parchment paper, remove them from the oven and untie both ends. Fold down the paper to get that evenly browned crust. Return the loaves to the oven and bake another 6 to 8 minutes, or until golden and sounds hollow when tapped. As an optional step, you can mix a 1/4 teaspoon of salt with a 1/4 cup of warm water. This can get brushed onto the loaves when they come out of the oven to give them a slightly salty crust. And once the baguettes are cool enough to handle, they're ready to slice and serve.
And as always, you can find a link to the full written recipe in the description box below.
These beautiful loaves are not difficult to make at home. They require very few ingredients and are a great way to get started with your bread baking journey. Enjoy! If you're a fan of deliciously simple vintage recipes and old-fashioned skills, then you'll want to check out this next video. Thanks for stopping by.